There is a strange kind of exhaustion that settles into the bones of those who claim to hate people. Not the loud hatred of anger, but the quiet internal frustration of a mind overwhelmed by what Marcus Aurelius once called the foolishness of others. We've all felt it, the tightening in the chest when chaos surrounds us, the desire to withdraw when the world becomes too loud, too irrational, too unpredictable. But the psychology behind this feeling is not what most think, because people who hate people are rarely full of hatred. More often they are full of disappointment. They see too clearly. They expect too much from human nature. And when the world fails to meet the invisible standards they've built, they retreat, not out of malice, but out of self-preservation. Epictetus warned us that expectations are the source of all disturbance, and those who distance themselves from others often suffer because expectations have turned into emotional traps, quiet, internal chains that pull us toward resentment. But this is where our path splits, because if we follow that resentment long enough, we become prisoners to the same emotions we think we're escaping. True students of discipline, those who follow the ancient laws of inner fortitude, learn something different. The problem is never the outside world. The problem is our reaction to it. Seneca wrote that we suffer more in imagination than in reality. And those who claim to hate people often carry wounds carved not by the world, but by their own interpretations of it. We don't struggle because others exist. We struggle because we surrender control of our peace to the noise around us. So what does a disciplined mind do? We don't run. We don't drown in bitterness. We don't let the flaws of others turn into flaws within ourselves. We observe. We detach. We hold our power where it belongs, inside. Those who hate people often believe distance protects them, but distance without understanding only deepens the wound. The Stoic thinkers, researchers of human emotion long before psychology had a name, realized something darker and more liberating. The world does not owe us harmony. We owe ourselves discipline. When someone acts irrationally, we practice restraint, not because we are weak, but because we refuse to let their chaos become our chaos. When someone disappoints us, we protect our peace, not by hating them, but by mastering our own expectations. When the world pushes us to react, we choose silence, not as withdrawal, but as power. And slowly, we begin to understand. The goal is not to love everyone. The goal is not to force connection. The goal is to become a person whose emotional stability doesn't collapse in the presence of imperfection. We stop hating people not because they changed, but because we did. Because we learned what the ancient philosophers whispered across centuries: strength is not found in controlling others. Strength is found in controlling ourselves. And in that control, in that deep, grounded stillness, we rise above the emotional traps that once dominated us. We become harder to provoke, harder to disappoint, harder to break, not cold, but sovereign, not detached, but unshakable. This is the psychology of true inner power, a mind that no longer wastes itself on hating people because it has mastered the only battlefield that ever truly mattered, the one within. Point 2. They carry an unresolved battle within themselves. When someone claims to hate people, it is rarely the world they're at war with. It is themselves, not their character, but their unmastered reactions, their fragile expectations, their unexamined wounds. This is the hidden psychology most overlook. The frustration directed outward is often a reflection of a deeper conflict happening inward. The ancient Stoic researcher Musonius Rufus once said that no man becomes angry at others without first being angry at himself. And this truth is darker than it appears, because people who hate people often carry a pain they've never fully articulated, a disappointment they've never resolved, a moral standard they've tried to uphold only to watch the world violate it again and again. We, those who walk the path of discipline and introspection, have felt the edges of this truth. The times when the noise around us was unbearable, not because it was loud, but because we were unprepared for how much it could disturb us. The Stoics taught that disturbance doesn't come from events, but from our interpretations of them. So when someone becomes hostile toward humanity, their hostility is often a shield built to protect the most vulnerable part of their mind. But shields are heavy, and carrying them in every room, every conversation, every interaction slowly exhausts the spirit. This exhaustion transforms into withdrawal. The withdrawal transforms into resentment, and resentment becomes a worldview, a silent philosophy built on mistrust and avoidance. Yet under this hardened surface lies something surprising. A longing for order, a longing for clarity, a longing for people to behave in a way that matches the values they themselves try to live by. Those who hate people do not actually desire isolation. They desire a world where integrity is normal, where respect is instinctive, where honesty is standard. Marcus Aurelius observed this internal contradiction when he wrote, "The mind adapted to self-rule will seek harmony even when surrounded by discord." And this is where the transformation begins. A disciplined mind does not try to fix humanity. A disciplined mind fixes itself. Because once we understand our own expectations, we stop holding people to standards they never agreed to. Once we learn to control our reactions, we stop blaming the world for our internal storms. Once we embrace the limits of human nature, we stop wasting energy resenting people for being what they are, imperfect. This shift is profound. The person who once hated people becomes someone who simply understands them. They no longer expect consistency from the inconsistent. They no longer seek depth from the shallow. They no longer demand emotional purity from those still ruled by impulse. Instead, they become what Epictetus called a guardian of their own mind, not reacting, not collapsing, not surrendering their peace to anyone's chaos. Hatred fades, not because the world becomes better, but because the inner battle is finally resolved. And when that battle ends, something powerful emerges, a person who is not hardened, but disciplined, not distant but sovereign, not hateful but unshakably at peace, because they now understand what the world could never teach them. We do not control people, we control the way we rise above them. Point 3. They mistake emotional exhaustion for human flaws. There is a quiet truth most people refuse to admit. Sometimes it is not humanity that disappoints us, it is our own burnt-out mind misreading the world. People who claim to hate people often believe they have analyzed society and found it unworthy. But the deeper psychology reveals something more fragile, more human, and more stoic in nature. They are exhausted, not evil, not cold, just exhausted. Epictetus warned that fatigue of the mind makes all things appear harsher than they are. And this fatigue is the silent poison many carry without even realizing it. When the mind is stretched thin, when it hasn't rested from conflict, when it is burdened by expectations it cannot fulfill, it starts projecting its internal chaos onto the world outside. A joke sounds like an insult, a question feels like an intrusion, a mistake appears as disrespect, a miscommunication becomes a betrayal. Slowly, the world begins to look corrupted, when in reality it is the lens, not the landscape, that's broken. And this is where many people fall into hatred. They believe they are seeing people clearly, but what they are actually seeing is themselves reflected in the behavior of others. Seneca wrote that we suffer more from imagination than from reality, and those who hate people often suffer from this exact distortion. Their exhaustion has rewired their perception, turning small annoyances into moral failures, turning imperfect humans into threats. Yet beneath this distortion lies a deeper layer. They are tired of giving, tired of forgiving, tired of trying to be the pillar others lean on, tired of feeling like they must hold the world together while the world holds nothing for them. This fatigue becomes resentment, not because people are inherently terrible, but because the exhausted mind cannot distinguish between malice and messiness, between danger and disorder, between disrespect and simple human imperfection. But here is where the path of inner mastery diverges sharply from the path of bitterness. A true practitioner of discipline learns to clean the lens before judging the landscape. Marcus Aurelius insisted, "The mind adapts and transforms the world it perceives," meaning if our internal world is poisoned by exhaustion, the external world will appear poisoned as well. So the transformation begins with a question. Is the world really as hostile as it feels, or are we simply carrying too much unresolved weight? When we ask this honestly, something shifts. We stop demanding perfection from strangers. We stop assuming others intend harm. We begin separating true threats from harmless flaws, and slowly, very slowly, the hostility dissolves. People stop looking like enemies. The world stops looking like a battlefield, and we discover a truth that the exhausted mind could never show us. Most people are not trying to hurt us. They're just trying to survive, just like we are. This realization does not make us naive. It makes us sovereign, because once we differentiate between emotional exhaustion and true danger, we regain control over our reactions. We regain clarity. We regain strength, and the hatred we once clung to loses its power. What remains is not love for humanity, but something far more valuable: understanding. Distance without resentment, observation without bitterness, strength without hostility. The quiet power of a disciplined mind, finally seeing the world as it is, not as exhaustion once painted it. Point 4. They confuse control with understanding. One of the most dangerous traps for those who claim to hate people is the illusion of control. They believe that by rejecting others, by isolating themselves, by building walls around their hearts, they are protecting themselves. Yet, Stoic wisdom teaches the opposite. It is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Epictetus, the truly intelligent, disciplined mind, understands that control is never over others. It is over self. When we attempt to dominate or manipulate our perception of people, we merely feed our frustration, our disappointment, and our quiet hatred. Those who detest people often fail to see that their anger is a mirror of ignorance. They are attempting to control what cannot be controlled: others' thoughts, actions, and motives. In doing so, they give away their power, because the world, unpredictable as it is, will always break their illusion. The Stoics called this misalignment false dominion. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." The people who claim to hate the world rarely see that their resentment stems not from external failures, but from their inability to accept human imperfection. By fixating on what they cannot command, they exhaust themselves emotionally, and they become blind to opportunities for true clarity and inner calm. To rise above this, we must redirect our focus inward. Observe without judgment. Respond without emotional contamination. Recognize that the world will never bend entirely to your will, and that is not a flaw, but the ultimate lesson in fortitude. Understanding this distinction is the beginning of liberation. When we stop confusing control with understanding, we reclaim our strength. We stop hating the noise of others because we recognize it as irrelevant to our inner mastery. We stop reacting to provocations because we understand they reveal more about the other than about us. In truth, the people we believe we hate are not the enemy. The real adversary is the mind enslaved by expectation, the heart poisoned by the need to dominate, and the spirit drained by resentment. When we master our perception, silence our unnecessary judgments, and embrace the Stoic path of internal sovereignty, we no longer hate people. We simply see them clearly, choose our responses wisely, and preserve our strength in a world that delights in chaos.